What's up, everybody? Tech Chucker here, and today we're going to take a look at the new X-Men Juggernaut wave, Marvel Legends Wolverine. So first things first, it needs to be noted that this wave is filled with figures that everybody wants. And the top three are definitely Deadpool, Wolverine, and Rogue. And a lot of people have been struggling to get Wolverine. I lucked out. I actually managed to nab two of them because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pre-order. So I am keeping one in the package and I'm opening this one up so that I can do my review. So let's take a closer look and see, did they knock this one out of the park, or is it just a run-of-the-mill figure? All right, let's take a look at the articulation on this figure because it's fairly unique, at least in terms of articulation on in the figures that I have in my collection. So his head is on a ball peg with a hinge and that he can look up pretty well, no complaints there. He can look all the way down, which is really good as well. No issues with that. He can look side to side. It is not hindered in any way. Which obviously, if I just by looking at it, you can tell that. Tilt, there's a little bit of tilt in his head as well, and that's pretty good. No complaints there. In the shoulders, there is a ball joint. He can raise his shoulders up to about level with his shoulders, which isn't too bad. And then he's got full rotation ability. There's also this butterfly joint in his shoulders, which is actually very, very functional. He can move forward pretty well, but the backwards is what is really, really good. And that allows you to get him into some of those more widely known poses that you'd expect from Wolverine. He's got a bicep joint, no issues there. It's a little tight on the back, but not too bad. Double jointed elbows. Because of the bicep, he can't really go more than 90, but that's okay. And then there's a peg joint in the wrist and a hinge as well, and he can curl his wrists down fairly well, and he can curl his wrists up as well. And we'll note, and I've been noticing that pretty much all of them seem to have a really, really loose right wrist, but we'll take a look at that in a minute. So he's got a hinge joint in the abs, and he can do a really good ab crunch forward. That I'm really, really happy with. And then he can move back just about one click, a little bit, not too much back for backwards arch, but not too bad. I'd prefer the ab crunch anyway. And then he does have a waist swivel, and that's covered nicely by the belt, which is a floating belt. So it does take a little pressure, but you can still get it to move, which isn't a big deal. So I'm happy with that. Moving into the hips, he has a T-jointed ball joints, and he can barely do the splits. Nothing much there, which I would have expected a little bit better. He's got a forward kick of, it's not too bad, not too bad. It does push out a little bit when you kick him forward, so you can see he's kind of moving his leg out a little bit, but not too bad. Backwards, he can move this is pretty good. I'm happy with how far back his leg can go. So I'm happy there. There is an upper thigh cut. No issues there because there's no paint. There is a big kind of gap there, but not a big deal. Double jointed knees, he can bend almost in half, which isn't too bad if I can get this to go. There we go. So yeah, he can bend his knees almost all the way in half, which is what I would expect. There is an upper boot shin swivel, a peg joint there. Works well. It's hidden very nicely with the boot. Really happy with how that turned out. And then the ankle, he can move his foot back a really good amount. Pretty standard that we've been seeing. And then forward, not as much, but there's a little bit there. So I am happy with that. And then there is also an ankle rocker, which works fairly well. So overall, the articulation on this figure is really, really good. I like the butterfly joint in the shoulder area. That actually does add to this figure very, very well. So I'm really happy with that. All right, let's take a look at the sculpt of this figure, and I think Hasbro did a really good job with this sculpt. There's a lot of, from what I understand, there's what I was talking about, that wrist falling off, which is not cool. But basically, the actual sculpt work of this figure, one, he's considerably shorter. So you can see he's about 5 3/4 inches tall, which if you read the comics, we know that he's supposed to be a little bit shorter. But the head sculpt on this thing, he looks good. I mean, it looks like some of the more classic Wolverine looks. You can see there's a weird divot in the top of his head. I don't know what that's all about. But I like the ear fin things. I don't know what those are called on his cowl. But they did a good job with this. It's sculpted really well, and I have no complaints with the actual head sculpt here. So Hasbro did a great job. Okay, moving into the actual torso, there's definitely some uniqueness here, and in the arms, these biceps are huge, and so are the triceps. They're a little funky looking, but again, in the comics, that's the way he oftentimes looks. The hands are kind of cool, so you can see the hands with the claws. Those claws are actually removable, which is pretty neat. Though because we get another set of hands, I don't know if that's necessary. The belt is pretty cool. That's a floating belt that we get there, and then the boots are also what I believe a unique mold as well, and those look really cool with those kind of like the flared out things. The actual shoes or the feet. Originally, I was thinking that he might have two of the same foot. Uh, but I don't think so. It just looks a little funny to me. And then getting him to stand on those, it just looks a little bit weird. So just take a little closer look at the one that you get. If you happen to pick this one up, which I do recommend that you do that. Overall, this figure is really cool. All right, let's take a look at the paint on this thing, because there's definitely some bad spots here, especially on the head. There's a lot of bleed of the brown into the yellow, or maybe it's the yellows bleeding into the brown, which it's okay, but it just looks dirty. It doesn't look all that nice and crisp. And I've noticed also a little bit on the nose, it's a little bit weak. On the back of the head, there's still, some of those same issues. Let's see if I can focus. There we go. It's just kind of subtle. The line on the bottom is pretty crisp and clean, so that's good. And the lines on the chest are also fairly clean. The belt buckle, they painted that nicely in gold, and they actually get the little pin as well. So I can't complain there. On the hands, the silver, they did pretty good with that. I wish that the blades were the same color, silver, but and then on the boots, the boots are painted nicely. I like that, with the black stripe down the middle going up into the flare, and then the brown. I don't have any complaints with that. The rest of the figure, the skin tone and whatnot is nice. There's no other real paint on the face other than the eyes, so they didn't get any, paint on the lips or anything. But overall, it's pretty well average, the paint job. All right, so let's take a look at the accessories. Wolverine just comes with 2 sets of hands. He comes with these hands with the adamantium blades, which is pretty cool. Like I noted before, the right hand pegs in really loosely and can fall out really easily. So be careful of that. But basically, you get these 2 fist hands without the blades, and then you get the 2 fist hands with the blades. And these blades are actually removable. They just peg right in here. Be careful because you don't want to break them off, but they do peg in and pull out relatively easily. See if I can, there we go. And let's get this last one, and I'll just show you what it looks like. So originally I was thinking, well, that's kind of dumb. Why don't I just get the 1 set of hands? But you can see these holes, and that's not really all that cool. So I guess I understand why they added the holes. So you can see these just peg in fairly easily. See if I can line this up and pop these guys back in. While I'm doing that, there are no other accessories. He doesn't come with anything, no alternate heads or anything else, which an alternate head, maybe an unmasked head would have been nice. Okay, you can see this one's really loose. So be careful, you might want to try and tighten that up a little bit with something. I don't know what I'm going to use. I may just leave it. But overall, I'm kind of happy about the accessories, but I wish we would have gotten a little bit more. So, is this the best Wolverine figure we've gotten to date? Honestly, I can't answer that because this is the only Wolverine that I have gotten. So yes, this is the best one I have. Is it a must-have? I would say it definitely is. It's really well done. The paint is kind of average, but the sculpt, articulation is pretty close to, I guess I would say, a 5 out of 5 stars. Accessory-wise, yeah, it's pretty lacking there, but overall, this is a really, really good figure, and I highly recommend you pick it up. Make sure you click to subscribe, and I will see you later.
Tetris Brain Blast.